Hey everyone, welcome back to Quick Shifts. My name is Jason, and today we got something from our friends over at LASFIT that we're going to open up and unbox with you guys, and then we're going to go ahead, take it into the garage and get it installed on the Jeep Rubicon 4Xe. And we've partnershiped with LASFIT before in the past and had good success with their products. We're really happy with them. They're easy to install, and we've taken you through those. There will be some links for those previous videos. So we reached out and said, hey, is there anything we can do on the 4Xe? And they sent us these switchback rock lights. And these are able to turn from white to yellow with their switch. And the white, of course, is a brighter color. It's 6200 Kelvin, where the amber color is 1900 Kelvin. They're IP68, so that makes them waterproof. And that's exactly what you need for a rock crawler or a vehicle that's going to be in the wet. These are mounted on the outside of the vehicle. They're exterior. So you want to make sure that they can survive those watery conditions. And you don't have to mount these in the wheel wells. I think we're going to do that. But you can mount these anywhere on the exterior of the vehicle, even interior if you want to. But this should be a pretty nice kit. Let's go ahead and get this opened up. Of course, they do have that nice packaging. Even states on the specifications on the box here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you can check it out on their website for these rock lights. Again, it has 9 to 24 voltage output, 5.4 watts. Current dry is 450. Operating temperature is between -30 and 185 degrees. Amber is 300 lumen. The white is 500 lumen. And again, covers the color range in IP68. Nice little seal on the bottom. And that's what it looks like when you open it up. Get some basic instructions here. Get a box full of the accessories. Open that up in a second. And then this kit is a 4-light kit. It comes with the lights individually boxed. And they are labeled behind. So these are back lights. And then front, so you have 2 front lights. Now the reason they do that, if I understand correctly, is different lengths in the cable. So the lights that go in the rear will have a longer cable connected to them. So here we go with the lights right out of there. Being a backlight, this has a much longer cable to it. Nice easy connections on here. Mounting bracket. And then the light itself, each of these has a nice little cover on there. And you can see inside that there are 10 individual lights in there, LEDs. And these are solid metal with a kind of rubbery bendable mounting plate that absorbs vibration. So as you're driving your vehicle around, the vibration doesn't mess everything up in here. So it also gives it a nice mounting point. Being rubber, that if you're mounting it, it's flexible to fit what you need. Has 2 different leads through the back, channeling to run the cable through to have a nice clean install, and 2 mounting bolt holes. The front will be pretty much the same. Go ahead and open up one of these for you guys. And of course, this looks the same as well. Nice little mount on, or plastic covering on there. And again, you can see the dual LEDs in there with the white and the amber. A mounting bracket, and it has the cable with the easy connect on there again. And this one is a little bit shorter than one from the rear. I believe these are 24 gauge wiring, so nice solid wiring. So in the accessory box, you get a bag of bolts, washers, and nuts, and an Allen arm tool. These are Allen head bolts to mount these in. Also in the accessory box, you get your lovely zip ties for securing your cables throughout the vehicle. We'll talk about that more when we do the install. And you get a wiring harness. Comes with a fuse gauge or a fuse box pre-mounted. And in that fuse box is a 10 amp fuse. Runs into a Y junction with one output being for your rock lights. Now this does have a 8 light mount to it. And 4 of these are meant for the 4-pack kit that we have today. And the other 4 is for an 8-set kit that LASFIT has coming available. And then another lead for the three-way switch here for your off, your white, and your amber. Again, it has a nice seal on here for when you mount that. Nice little cover on the switch, and they give you a good amount of cable for that lead and a good amount of cable for the lights themselves. So we'll go ahead and take this kit outside from LASFIT, and we'll go get them mounted on the 4Xe and see how they look. I know that the instructions for this say it'll take a half hour, but just looking at the mounting kit and everything, I think it was really a half hour if you had a full-on rock climbing machine with tubular frame and everything with easy access to everything. But in our case, we've got to get down in the wheel well, pull the wheel well out, and figure out where we're going to put everything and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that figured out, and then we'll get back with you guys and get this install done. All right, so after about an hour of messing around with this, I finally got it figured out, and I've got the rear mounted. So now I'm going to go over to the other side, and I'm going to walk you guys through what I did and hopefully save you a whole bunch of time. All right, guys, so something you need to know before you get this started is you will need some tools. I recommend getting a 1/2 inch hair, a 5/32 drill bit. This is the tool that LASFIT provides, and a 7mm deep socket to go ahead and do this install. I made a template, and I ended up not using those rubber backings, and I'll walk you through this. And you also need a pry to get the stays off of the fender inner liner, so you can pull that back to get your hand behind it to do some of this, as you'll see as we get through this. But this template is definitely the way to go. Have these ready, and you can make pretty quick work of this, and the longest part will be running the wires from the back to the front. But first, let's go get that rear wheel off, and I'll show you guys how I did that. And now that you're under here, you're going to want to take these stays out of here, because we're going to want to pull this forward to be able to get our hand under there to mount the light on the fender, inner fender well. So here are the stays. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these suckers. We're going to go ahead and use the tool, and they do give you a fight. I apologize, I did lose my audio, but so I have to voice this over. At this point, you pull out that template that we made, and you want to place it up there and figure out exactly where you want these mounts to be. You want to make sure that they're in the right place, that they're equally aligned on both sides of the vehicle, and so the light shoots down over the tire and around the surrounding area of where the wheel's at for the rock light, so you can see where you're treading or where you're placing your tires. Now you want to make sure you do match this up with the other side of the vehicle so they look succinct. Now the thing that makes this a little bit difficult is the liner for the vehicle is not identical on both sides. So if you use these bolt holes here on the fender, that'll help you line them up equally on both sides. And then you just need to figure out where in the angle of that fender liner you want it to be so that light projects down where you want it and how you want it. So next up, you grab your drill and you go ahead and drill the pilot holes for the bolts to attach the rock light to the fender. Now again, be careful and double check that there's nothing behind these, or that you're not going to poke the bolt or the drill through anything. I've already done that. There is nothing behind there, so there's no risk here. But always double check before you drill. Last thing you want to do is puncture a line, drill through a cable, or cause any other damage. Next, remove your template and grab that 1/2 inch hole maker and make the hole for the cable to stick through the back. Next up, feed the cable through the hole we just drilled and pull it through. Go ahead and grab the hardware, those 2 long bolts, and fish those through the front of the rock light and through those 2 holes to temporarily hold it in place. Next, you'll grab that flat washer and put that on the back of the bolt, followed by the lock washer, and next by the nut, and you'll finger tighten those down. Grab your socket and the tool from LASFIT and snug that down, and then once you're done with the first one, rinse and repeat for the second one, and you should be all set. At this point, push the inner fender back down into its place, grab the push pins, and reinstall those to secure down the inner fender again. At this point, you can go ahead and remove the blue tape from the light pod, and we will finish up the wiring after we reinstall the tire and finish the rest of the light pods. So for the other side, it's rinse and repeat with the same installation. All right, guys, so day 2 of this, I had some stuff come up, had to get that stuff done, but we're back again to finish up this install. So now we have the back one mounted here. Kind of zoom out so you guys can see where that's at. And we still have the cables hanging on the ground for both sides of the rear. I want to go ahead and get the front lights mounted, and then we'll figure out where we want to run these cables underneath the vehicle to stay away from the exhaust and any moving components. So let's figure out how to do the front tires and where we want to mount those next. Okay guys, so just like before, get it up on the jack stand for this side. We're going to go ahead and zip this tire off. I'm going to mount this. That's where I'll drill, and I'll be careful though when I'm drilling, because as you guys see, you have the coolant and reservoirs there that you want to make sure you don't puncture through those. So you want to gently get these holes started. And now I'm going to elongate the one using the 1/2 inch. And ta-da! Next we get to run the light up through here and put the bolts in. Take our cable, plunge it up through our hole. Now that we have the wire fed up through and into the engine bay, which I'll show you guys in a minute, we're going to go ahead and start running the bolts up in and the washers on the back side. Here's one washer. Got one started. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull this off here to give us just a little bit more play with this. I think that'll make our lives a lot easier. Oh yeah, that gives us much more room, makes this a lot easier to get done. Alright, so before we go over to the other side, we're going to have to put our wheel back on. So we're going to use the impact driver to go ahead and swing these off the rest of the way and get the tire out of our way to make this a little bit easier for ourselves. Going to use our stencil here, place it where we want it, and we're going to go ahead and pre-drill our holes. Again, we want to be careful about what's behind. The liners are different in here. There's different things behind it. You want to be careful about what you're drilling a hole into. Make sure that you don't drill it into anything behind it. So again, like the other side, a soft drill just to get it through. Take your time, be patient. For the cable wire, at this point I'm also going to take, there's a stay in here, just like on the other side, if you guys can see that. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out, that grommet out, which will make pulling this forward to do the mounting that much easier for us. Alright, now that we've got that pulled through, go ahead and run the bolts. And then from here, you guys know the drill, put the washers on the back side, followed by the nuts. We pulled this stay out over here, so we can pull this forward. Push this back in place, grab our plastic stay clip for the inner fender mount, push that back in place, and the install is done in the wheel well. Now we need to go up top and finish the wiring to the battery, to the switch, and find a place inside the cabin to mount the switch. But first we'll go ahead and put this tire back on. One thing I want to show you guys on this passenger side where I pulled it up through, it came up through the air box right here. So I did go in here and loosen that 10mm bolt, which allowed me to get my fingers down there and pull the wire up. And then see if I can get some light on there. I pulled it up through the side here for convenience. And then over on the driver's side, it comes out right behind the washer fluid reservoir. So here's that 10 millimeter again. Again, as I was telling you, gave me just enough space to get my fingers down here, and the hole is just back there where I can grab it between my two fingers and pull the cord up through. Then I push this to the side and pull this up along the side of the Jeep. And now that I've got that where I want it, we'll put the 10 millimeter back in and secure that back down. All right, guys, so next thing you're going to want to do is connect the fuse connection set here to the battery. Make sure you disconnect from the battery, connect it to your terminals, and then reconnect your terminals to the battery. Be careful you don't cause sparks or anything like that, so be careful when you're doing that. But I'm a little anxious, and I'm sure you guys are too, so I'm going to go ahead and hook up all these loose cables to see how these lights look. And then I'll backtrack to go ahead and clean up all this wiring. There is tons of it. All right, we've got all 4 lights hooked up. And then we go ahead and take this one, which is also keyed, to the mount. We're gonna give this a test fire. So there you go, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. All 4 of them are working. Now it's time to clean up this rat's nest of wires that's hanging everywhere now because I was impatient and wanted to see how these looked. So we'll go back to zip tying all of these winds up under the Jeep and making them nice, neat, and here, and running wherever that is, our switch here, into the cabin and hooking it up in there. So let me walk you through this, starting with the longest wire first, which is the driver's side rear. So again, we have it mounted up here. The wire actually goes behind the fender there, and it comes down through here. And I'll do my best to climb under here. Don't know if you guys can see that, but it comes out through there. And there's the wire here. And it comes up tight to the body. And it actually goes back by this cross member here. At which point it goes under the tray here, or over it, I should say, through the top side of this, and it pops out back here by the orange cables up top. And again, I keep it with some zip ties in place throughout this to keep it from hanging loose, and it hangs up here by zip ties, and again it goes over and pops out on the other side over there, where it meets up with the other rear tire's wire. Mounted there, cables from the back side, similar to the other side. It comes down through there. From there, it pulls through. I have it zip tied up in strategic locations, coming through here, up above the rail. It actually meets up with the other cable from the other side that crosses over here and goes along and up through that side right there. It's inside the fender here and it comes up along this side, and I've pulled them up through here and back here where it meets with the junction boxes, and screw those all in. Driver's side, which goes up against the fender, and then I've run the cable up through here, and I actually took these bolts out here, and the cable, here's a glimpse of it, runs back between there. And what I intend to do now with the final switch is run this switch similarly through this cable through here, and as we come over here, we're going to use the same trick you use with everything. And I've already taken this cap out, but we're going to go through right there through the firewall, and then I will mount the switch down here just below the steering wheel, so it's out of the way. And then if I ever want to take it out, I can replace this panel so there's no hole in it. So something I want to mention, so I didn't get to show you guys, but to get those cables over the battery and over the gas tank, I did use this snake, and I would pull the snake through, put the cable in here, use a little bit of tape around there to secure it, and then pull it back through over the top. and that's how I fished it through there. This will save you tons of time and frustration trying to push a rope through a spot that you want it to go. And next, I've already pulled out this plug from the firewall, like in that location I showed you. So what I intend to do is I will use a drill bit, drill out the center of this, and then I've got a pack of grommets, and I'm going to use one of these smaller grommets to put in there to make sure we still have a somewhat watertight seal on there. I've got my drill bit, and we're going to go ahead and drill out the center of this. Let's go run our cables through to the location, and then we'll pull it through here and pop this back into the firewall. Use the 10mm to pull these caps off just to make our life easier. Get that cable underneath and then place this back in place. Rinse and repeat over here. Again, gentle, don't want to snap anything. Ta-da! Then we will place these back for the final time here. Run these back down. We'll get this cable over to the other side and run it through the firewall. Should be able to pull these through. Again, here's our grommet, and we want to make sure we have enough coming through that we can run through the firewall. At this point, we're going to go ahead and grab that cap and put that grommet through it. All right, guys, so go ahead and push your grommet on in there. Once you got your grommet in, realize that this is going to go into the wall this way, and your cables need to go through this way. So now that you've got this set up, make sure you pull the things through in the right direction. You have to go one by one because this is a tight fit like we want it to be. Ta-da, finally got them. We'll go ahead and fish these down through the hole here and through the firewall. There you go, there's that cap pulled through the firewall. All right, at this point, the final piece of it is to put the two-way switch in there, or three-way switch in there. Like I mentioned before, you can mount this switch anywhere you'd like to mount it in the vehicle, but for my purposes, I want to mount it on this piece, just in case I decide I don't want this in here anymore. I can just replace this piece instead of trying to patch a hole somewhere else in the panel of the Jeep. And if the next owner wants to take it out, it makes it easier for them. But I think I'm going to mount this about right there in the panel. So again, like before, you want to make sure you're not hitting anything behind the panel. So you want to check for that. Make sure you have the clearance that you need. Cabling through the firewall there. And make sure that it reaches up to where we're putting in the switch. All right, guys, so we've got our wires coming through. Got those all wired in and push it back through the hole we made. All right, so we now have the switch mounted. Our wires are safely tucked away. And testing it out, we got it turned on. And everything is functioning as it should. If we flick the switch down to the third position, we then get the white light. So now all there's left to do is to test this out at night, but I do want to quickly circle back now that we've got this in here and get this cable tidied up some. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then we'll catch back tonight with you guys and check this out in the night and see how it looks. This is not a half-hour install. This is quite a bit longer, especially if you want it to look nice and neat like it belongs, and so you don't have, other than the spaghetti mess over here, you really don't have any signs of it being modified in the vehicle to keep it nice and clean. And finally, night is upon us, and I can show you guys how this looks on the vehicle with them turned on. The rock lights from LASFIT look killer. They light up great. They're made out of solid metal mounts that make them a high quality piece. They give plenty of light underneath the vehicle, as you guys can see. Super bright white lights. Plenty of cabling that reaches from the back to the front on this universal kit that makes it an ideal kit. You could use this on your Jeep You could put it on your Wagoneer if you wanted to. But this is a great kit made of solid pieces, IP68 waterproof. Highly recommend this kit. In addition to the white lights, it is a 2-stage rock light kit, and we can hit the switch and turn them into amber lights. And this will give you plenty of lighting. It's a great night effect if you're out hunting down the mall parking lot and sitting with friends and talking about stuff. You go to Jeep events and you're sitting out chatting with other Jeep enthusiasts. It's fun to leave these on, and especially for the trail. They look great. They help your spotter be able to see what's going on under your tire. So if you're trying to guide a vehicle, it does give you better visibility for doing that. If you get caught on the trail at night, or if you're one of those crazy people who like to ride on the trail at night, this definitely adds that additional visibility to that. So again, LASFIT did a great job with this kit. Highly recommend it. And one thing I will say, half hour is not going to cut it unless you're slapping this thing together real fast and you don't care where your cables are running or anything like that. But I highly recommend you take your time, put your cables in the right place where they won't get hot, they won't get into anything that has motion and moves. But you do that, take your time. It's not hard to install, it just takes time. So I give this an A+, recommend it. Guys, go check it out. Check it out on LASFIT. This is a great one. It took a lot longer than I anticipated, but I'm super happy with the outcome of it. I hope you guys like it too. If you like this, hit that like button, share it with your friends, give us a thumbs up, turn on the bell for notifications, and check you guys out on the next video. Drop us a comment down below of what you'd like to see next. Thanks, guys.